Welcome back. Time to cover our first real vulnerability. Even though HTML injection is considered a bug, command injection is much more serious. So, what is command injection? Well, we can define it like this. Command injection is a web vulnerability that allows an attacker to execute operating system commands on the server that is running the application. Typically, once it's discovered, it allows the attacker to fully compromise the application and all of its data. Sometimes, command injection can be used to compromise other parts of the host's infrastructure, and it can be used to pivot the attack to other systems within the organization. So yes, it can be really serious vulnerability. It allows us to execute system commands on the server, which could also mean that we can see the files, check out the passwords folder, delete files, and perhaps even set a reverse shell connection. But how exactly do we do that? And when can we find this bug? Let's check out an example in theory. Say we have a simple web application that lets people read different stories. It gives you a list of stories that it has available, and you type in which one you want to read. Let's say that those stories are stored in TXT files on the server. Once a client types in the name of the story that they want to read, the server processes the content of that story's TXT file and outputs it back to the web page. Now, this is a very simple example, but it will give us a good understanding on what exactly is command injection. And what we saw right here was a normal usage of this web application. But the problem can occur if the website processes the content of the story itself through its system without the user input being filtered as to what characters and what commands can it receive. Let me explain this a little bit better. For example, let's say this application reads the content of the TXT file with the help of the cat command. We type in the story name and it cats the story, reads the output and throws it back to the web application for us to read. All of this is good, but what happens if we enter this, for example? Story1.txt, semicolon, who am I? And here is where our terminal commands knowledge comes in play. What we did right here is we simply typed the story that we want to read, then we used semicolon to add another command that the server should execute, which in our example is who am I? And by the way, semicolon can be used to separate multiple commands. It's just one of the ways that you can separate multiple commands and execute them one by one. So now the command that the server would process would no longer be just cat story1.txt, but it would look something like this. Cat story1.txt, and then after it executes that, it would execute who am I. And if the website is vulnerable to command injection and it doesn't filter our input, we would get an output like this. It would output a story, and at the end we should also see the response of the who am I command, which can be root or the account name that executed the command. So in general, the process looks something like this. We find a user input that could potentially get processed by the system. We add normal input and concat additional command to it, and if the input isn't filtered, it will process both of those commands and it will give us both of these results. Awesome. Now let's see how that looks like in practice. Welcome back. Let's cover our first example of command injection. And as usual, we're going to start off with an easy example first. This example will be the one from our TryHackMe OWASP Top 10 lab. So we already ran that virtual machine once we covered HTML injection, and we want to do the same thing again. We want to run the virtual machine used to perform command injection in the lab that we covered inside of the TryHackMe platform. Now, since we already ran it once, I'm going to go through the process of running those virtual machines and setting up VPN one more time, just so we can refresh our memory. So the first thing that we want to do once we open our TryHackMe account is we want to make sure that burp suit is started and that intercept is turned off. And then we want to run our VPN file. Remember, we downloaded it in the home and then our account and in the downloads directory. And all we have to do to run it is type sudo openvpn and then the file name. Enter your password and it will start the VPN for you. Now, if you open another terminal and type in ifconfig command, you should be able to see another interface right here that will give you the IPv4 address that will belong to the TryHackMe network. Okay, awesome. Once you got that set up, you want to navigate to your dashboard, navigate to the Learn tab, scroll all the way down till we find our modules, which are right here. Select Web Hacking Fundamentals. And under here, we want to go with OWASP Top 10. Okay, awesome. As we can see, we are connected to their network. Here is our IP address. As it says even here that we are connected via OpenVPN. So everything is set up good. Now, if you don't connect from the first try, just try to restart both of your OpenVPN and your TryHackMe platform. Just refresh it after you start your VPN again, and it should work perfectly. Now, once we navigate right here, we want to go to the task 4 and task 5. Both of these are command injection. Just this one is only theory. It allows you to read something about it. You can go through all of this if you want to. I do advise you to read it. And you can also read examples of command injection right here under the task 5. But we're not going to be reading this at the moment. What we want to do is we want to start the machine. As we remember, it will take around 1 minute for our IP address of our vulnerable virtual machine to appear right here. So let's wait for that. And by the way, after we finish showing the command injection, in the next video we're also going to try to do these tasks or do these challenges right here. These are something like capture the flag challenges. So it will ask us to find something and we will try to do it with the help of command injection. But for now, let's just get command injection to work. So let's wait once again for IP address to show. And here is my IP address. I'm going to copy it. And the first thing that I always do, which I already mentioned, is I try to ping the IP address. In case you get a response like this where it is not able to ping it, make sure that you wait for a minute or two and then you should be able to ping it, since it does take some time for the machine to set up. So let's Control C this, wait a couple more seconds and then we will try again. Let's give it a try again, and if I ping it, now we do get the response. Okay, awesome. Let's go back here, and in our challenge, as we already saw previously, we do get this link right here. So this link is what we're going to use to try to perform command injection. Let's click on it, and it should open a page called evilshell.php on our target's IP address. And here we get a simple web application. It only has this one input that allows us to enter a single command. And if I type something like test, well, nothing will appear. But what would happen if I type something like test and then semicolon to separate the commands and type ls, which is the command to list all the available files in the directory. If I click on submit, now we get a response. We get all the files that are currently in this web server's directory. So this input right here is vulnerable to the command injection. You can do this with any command that you want. You can type test and then semicolon and then, for example, who am I? And it will tell you which account is it running as. Currently it's running as www-data. So command injection works in this input. But there's one more thing that I didn't really tell you. Besides the command injection that reflects the output on the page, there is also something called blind injection or blind command injection. What does that mean? Well, it means that we can't see the output of our command on the page, even though it might be vulnerable to the command injection. Okay, but you might be wondering, well, how can I then know if it's vulnerable if I can't see any output on the page? Well, we have to approach it differently. Now, let's imagine that this same page doesn't give us any output. Let's imagine that once we type test and then semicolon and then space and ls, it doesn't print anything right here. If you didn't know about blind command injection, you would probably think that it's not vulnerable. But there is another test that we can perform. We can try to perhaps ping our Kali Linux machine from our target machine. It won't give us any output here, but if we try to intercept the requests using something like a Wireshark, then maybe we can see the packets that the target machine is sending in order to ping us. If we do see those packets, that means we have a blind SQL injection. Let me show you what I mean. So first thing, we're going to open a program called Wireshark that is used to sniff packets and data over certain interfaces. We do ideally want to open it with sudo, just so we don't have any limitations. So just type sudo Wireshark and then type in your password. It will open this user interface program where we are going to try to sniff our packets once we run the ping command. So you will open a window that looks something like this. And you will have multiple interfaces right here. Ideally, we want to select the interface that we use with our VPN. And once again, you can figure out which interface that is by typing ifconfig. And for me, this is TUN0 interface. It has the IP address that belongs to the TryHackMe network. So I'm going to select that one right here. And here it's going to sniff for all the packets that are coming to that interface. Now, in order to discover this blind command injection, what we can do is we can type test and then ping our IP address. So to check out what IP address we have, we can copy it from our ifconfig output right here, and we can paste it here. But before we run it, we want to be specifically sniffing for ping requests inside of our Wireshark. And those packets are also called ICMP packets. So you can type in the search bar ICMP, press enter, and it will only output any ICMP packets that are received right here. So let's give it a try. We typed test, semicolon, then we added space for the second command, and we typed ping and then the IP address. Now, also since Linux systems ping forever until you Control C, we also want to add -C option, which stands for count, and we want to ping only 5 times. So we were going to type ping, IP address, then space, -C, and then 5. In case you don't see it really well, let me enlarge this, and it looks something like this. Once we submit this request, you will notice that this page is loading consistently. And after a few seconds, we get this output. But if we go to our Wireshark, we also get ICMP packets from the target machine. Now, imagine that we didn't get this output right here. We would think that there was no vulnerability. But if we opened our Wireshark and saw the requests coming in, we would know that we have a case of blind command injection. How cool is that? Okay, awesome. And this was the simple example of command injection. In the next video, we're going to take a look at these tasks right here, even though they don't really have much to do with the command injection, but more like system navigation and something like that. But we're nonetheless going to do them just to show how you can approach these challenges. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lecture. Welcome back. Let's try to solve these challenges inside of our command injection task. Now, this is something that we do as a bonus. It has very little to do with the vulnerability itself. It's more like what you're going to do after you find the vulnerability. And we're not going to be doing all of these challenges on TryHackMe Platform. However, we might do a few of them just to see whether we can solve them. So navigate to your command injection, which is task number 5. Make sure it's command injection practical. The requirements for this is that if you want, you can read through this and this part right here. And also you should have watched the previous video where we performed the command injection. Right now, let's use that command injection to solve these examples. Let's go with question number 1. It asks what strange text file is in the website root directory. Well, we already know how we can do this. To list all of the files in that directory, all we can do is type ls. So we can type something like test to finish off the first command, even though it's not necessary for this virtual machine. However, we just do it for practice, and then semicolon, and then we can type ls. This will list all the files in the current directory. And let's get to the question again. We're searching for a strange text file. Let's go back, and pretty much the only text file that we have right here is drpepper.txt. So let's copy that name and specify it right here as a first answer. Okay, it's correct answer. Awesome. Let's go to the second question. Now, it asks how many non-root and non-service, non-daemon users are there. Well, this might be a little bit tricky because for this, we can do something like this. So test, semicolon, and then we can cat @c and then passwd folder in order to see all of the users that the system has. Now, we are searching for non-root and non-service users. And if we take a look at this output that we get right here from the @c passwd folder, well, pretty much we don't have any personal user outside of all of the other users tied to a service, such as proxy, such as no login, such as network, and all of that. So the answer to this should be 0. Let's submit it. And that's also a correct answer. Awesome. The third question is the one that we already performed in the previous video, which is what user is this app running as? So we already did this in the previous video. We can type test, semicolon, and then who am I, and it will tell us the user that's currently running this web application. In our case, it's www-data. Let's copy that and submit it for the third answer. The fourth question is what is the user's shell set as? Now, this is something that you can also try searching inside of the @c passwd folder. Let me show you what I mean. Once you cat the @c passwd folder, it will give you this output, and all you want to do right here is try to find the www-data user. And if we go and scroll a little bit, it's right here. At the end of that user's line, we should be able to find a path that says /var, or let me see if it's there. No, here it is. It should be /user /asbin /nologin. Let's give it a try. Let's copy that. This is the path that we get, and if I set it right here, let's see whether it's correct, and it indeed is correct. So all we had to do is cat the @c passwd folder, find the www-data user, and at the end of the line you will have the path that is the answer to the question of what is the user's shell set as. Okay, awesome. Now, the fifth question is what version of Ubuntu is running? And most of these questions are something that we can actually Google if we don't really know. So for example, let's say that we don't know what command can we use to discover the Ubuntu version. We can try something like this. How to check Ubuntu version. Press enter, and we can visit first or second link, it doesn't really matter. Let's go with this one, how to check your Ubuntu version. And ideally we want a command that is used to do that. So let's scroll a little bit down. And it says use the lsb release-a command to display the Ubuntu version. So let's give it a try. If we copy this command and we run it inside of our evil shell, so test semicolon, and then let's paste the command. Okay, so we do get the output. Here is the Ubuntu version. And which format are we looking at? We're looking at a number.number.number. So it's pretty much this, 18 0.04.4. Copy that, this is the Ubuntu version, and paste it right here. Awesome. Now, the last question is the trickiest, because it says print out the MOTD. What favorite beverage is shown? Now, pretty much 99% of you are going to take a look at this question and wonder what even is it asking, but I advise you to straight away go to hint. So the hint tells us 00-header. And this sounds like a file, perhaps, or something like that. So we can start off with that. We can try to locate a file that has this inside of the name. How can we do that? Well, we can use a locate command that most Linux systems support. So we can type test and then semicolon. And by the way, just so you don't get confused, you don't need to type test every time. You can type anything, so pretty much anything at all. You can type test 1, 2, 3. The word that you type before the semicolon is really not important in this case. So you can type pretty much anything and then semicolon, and then comes the important command. So we want to locate, and what are we locating? Once again, we're locating 00-header. Let's copy that name, and let's paste it in our command. Click on submit, and we get this output, which sounds like a path, which is under the /etc/update motd.d/00-header. So let's try to cat this, but let's make even more complex command. Let's type test semicolon, and then let's cd /etc/update-motd.d, and let's concat another command, which we can do by typing two of these signs right here. And then we can type cat 00-header. So here we're actually trying to execute three commands. The first command, which doesn't really matter what it is. In this example of this virtual machine, you don't even need to use it because it's specifically made to execute commands. But in real life, you will have a first command that should be normal web application usage. Then after that comes our command injection, where we execute our first command, and in this case we concated another command. After we cd to this directory, we want to cat the content of this 00-header. Let's submit this, and this is the output that we get. So now let's go back to the question, what favorite beverage is shown? Let's go all the way down, and if we scroll, we're going to see something interesting right here that says Dr. Pepper makes the world taste better. We can copy this, go back to here and paste it right here. Oops, let's try like this. No, that doesn't appear to be the answer, so... Oh, we should just copy Dr. Pepper if I'm not mistaken, not the entire sentence. So let's go back and let's paste Dr. Pepper. And here it is. That's the correct answer. So this was just a little bit of a bonus video where we covered these tasks right here using different commands. And in the next video, we're going to take a look at how we can run a reverse shell with the help of a command injection on our OWASP BWA virtual machine. See you in the next lecture.